I didn't reach for my phone when I found the envelope taped under my truck's dashboard. I didn't tremble. My hands were as cold and steady as the Hamilton steel I used to forge. I felt the thickness of it heavy, too heavy for anything but stacks of cash or poison. I knew exactly whose signature was on this betrayal. My son Thomas. I sat there in my driveway in Oakville, the November wind rattling the glass like it was trying to warn me. In that silence, I made a choice that would rewrite our family history. I peeled that envelope away, walked across the gravel to Thomas's parked Honda, and slid the weight of his sins into his own glove compartment. Then I went inside, poured a coffee, and waited 23 minutes later. The sirens started screaming, "Let me take you back." My name is Richard. I'm 64 years old. I spent nearly 4 decades in the heat of a steel plant so my kids could have a life of cool shadows. When my wife, Catherine, died 4 years ago, I thought my biggest battle was over. We'd raised 2 kids in a modest bungalow, saved every cent, and paid for their degrees in full. That was our legacy, or so I thought. Thomas is my youngest, 39 years old, married to Vanessa, a pharmaceutical rep. They have a 7-year-old daughter named Lily, my world. For years, I believed I knew the man my son had become. I was dead wrong. It started 3 months ago. Thomas asked for my truck for the weekend, claiming his transmission was shot. I handed him the keys without a second thought. When he brought it back Sunday night, the air around him felt electric. He was twitchy, burning through his phone battery, checking the street every 30 seconds. When I asked if he was okay, he snapped, "Everything's fine, Dad." Why wouldn't it be? The next morning, I found a tiny plastic baggie wedged by the center console, empty, but with that acrid chemical residue. I'd lived long enough to know that smell. My stomach did a slow roll. I lied to myself. I told myself it was a hitchhiker, a coworker, anyone but my boy. 6 weeks later, he called again. Same story. He needed the truck for a quick errand. I said yes. I always said yes to my son, but this time I watched Dot when he returned. He sat in the driver's seat for 5 minutes, eyes darting, sweating through an October chill. He hugged me before he left, and I felt it the vibration of a man terrified of his own shadow. After he pulled away, I went out with a flashlight. I searched every inch. I was about to give up when I felt the carpet by the pedals. It was loose. Underneath, I found a burner phone. No apps, no photos, just dozens of coded texts. Addresses in Toronto, timestamps, and one message that turned my blood to slush. Your old man's truck is perfect. Nobody checks a grandpa. I sat in that dark cabin for an hour. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the kid who cried over our old dog Max, was using me as a shield for a drug run. I didn't blow up. Not yet. I smoothed the carpet. She used to say trust is earned twice, once when they're honest, and again when they fix the lie. Thomas hadn't been honest, but I was going to give him the chance to fix it that Saturday. We sat in the kitchen, the same room where we'd celebrated every birthday and holiday. I slid the burner phone across the table. His face turned the color of ash. I found this in my truck, I said. He reached for it, then pulled back like it was white-hot. He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize, calculating, weighing the profit of a lie against the cost of the truth. He started talking about a business investment gone bad. He said he owed money to the wrong people in Toronto. He swore it was just a few runs to clear the debt. He wouldn't meet my gaze. The debt was 20 grand. Thomas, I said, my voice a whisper, you used me. You put my name, my house, my life on the line. If the police had stopped you, it's my registration they'd be looking at. I'm sorry, Dad. I wasn't thinking. He started sobbing, a 40-year-old man crying like a 7-year-old who'd broken a lamp. "I've messed up. I don't know how to fix it." I wanted to reach out. Every fatherly instinct screamed at me to pull him in and say we'd handle it. But I remembered the text message. I remembered him calling me a perfect cover. Maybe it was the thought of little Lily growing up with a father behind glass, or worse, father in the ground. "Thomas, you need to stop today. Right now," I said. "Whatever this is, you walk away." "I can't, Dad," he snapped. The fear in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp desperation I didn't recognize. "These aren't the kind of people you just walk away from." "Then we go to the police," I countered. "We tell them everything. We get you protection." He stood up so fast his chair screeched against the linoleum. "I'm not going to prison, son. If you keep this up, prison is the mercy option." But he was already out the door. I sat there, listening to the engine of his car fade into the distance, and I knew with the kind of absolute certainty that settles in your bones that my son wasn't going to stop. He was going to keep using my truck, keep using my reputation as a shield, and keep dragging Lily closer to the edge of the abyss. That night, I looked at Catherine's photo. She was always the smart one, the one who knew how to untangle the knots I just wanted to cut. "You have to stop him," I could almost hear her whisper. "But you have to do it before the wolves do." The next time he asked for the truck, it was a Thursday morning. I handed him the keys, watched him pull away, and then I stepped into Catherine's old Corolla. I followed him. He didn't go to a job site. He went to a Tim Hortons off the QEW. A black Mercedes slid into the spot beside him. A man got out, stepped into my truck, and 5 minutes later walked back to his car, carrying a heavy shopping bag. I followed Thomas to 2 more drops. I photographed every face, every exchange, every license plate by the time he returned the truck at noon. I had a digital trail of his destruction. "Thanks, Dad," he said, handing me the keys with a smile that felt like a knife in my ribs. "You're a lifesaver." I spent the next 3 weeks building a plan. It was a gambler, terrifying. High-stakes play to save his life by ruining his career. When he called again for the truck, I told him the keys would be in the visor. But as soon as he picked it up, I didn't go back to my coffee. I drove straight to the Oakville OPP station. I spoke to a Constable Morrison. She had eyes like Catherine's kind, but they didn't miss a thing. I gave her everything. The photos, the burner phone logs, the patterns. "Mr. Petton," she said, "this takes a lot of courage." "I'm not brave," I admitted. "I'm just a grandfather who wants his granddaughter to have a father who's alive, even if he's behind bars for a while." They moved with surgical precision. They brought in a detective named Singh. The plan was to intercept Thomas mid-run, flip him, and go after the suppliers. "We need to be sure there's contraband in the truck today," Singh told me. That's when I told them about the envelope I'd found taped under the dash that morning. I'd seen it at 6 a.m., but I didn't tell them the whole truth. I didn't tell them that while I was out there in the dark. I had realized that if they searched the truck, they'd find my name on the registration. They'd question me. So I'd moved the evidence. I took that envelope of poison and cash out of my truck and moved it into Thomas's personal car parked right there in the driveway. I'd changed the math. I didn't want him caught in my truck where he could lie and say he didn't know it was there. I wanted him caught in his own world. 20-3 minutes after I got home, the hammer fell. 3 cruisers pinned Thomas's Honda in a grocery store parking lot. They found $40,000 in cash and enough fentanyl to put him away for a decade, My phone screamed an hour later. It was Vanessa. Richard. They arrested Thomas. They're saying he's a dealer. It has to be a mistake. You have to help him. Where's Lily? I asked. She's at my mother's. Richard. Do something. Vanessa, I said, leaning against the kitchen counter where Thomas used to do his homework. Listen to me very carefully. Take Lily and go to your parents. Right now, I ordered. Don't go home. Don't answer the door for anyone but me or a lawyer. Do you understand? Richard, what's happening? Why? Vanessa's voice was climbing into a panic. Just trust me. I'm keeping Lily safe, but you have to stay away from the house. There was a heavy, suffocating silence. Then a whisper. You knew. You found out. I tried to help him stop. Vanessa, he wouldn't. Oh my God. Richard, I'm sorry, too. But this was the only way. I hung up and felt the weight of it. I'd just pushed my own son off a cliff, praying there was a net at the bottom. The next 3 days were a blur of cold coffee and legal jargon. Thomas was denied bail. The Crown painted him as a ghost in the Machina high-level dealer with deep ties to the Toronto underworld. The sheer volume of fentanyl in his car was his death warrant. On the 4th day, I visited him. He sat behind the glass in an orange jumpsuit, looking like he'd aged a decade in 72 hours. He picked up the phone. His eyes were dead. You did this, he said. You put that poison in my car, Thomas. Don't lie to me. Out here, the cops told me the envelope wasn't where they expected it to be. They watched you drive my truck, but the heat was in my Honda. You moved it. You set me up. I didn't blink. I found it in my truck. I moved it to yours. And yes, I called the police. Why? Why would you destroy me like this? Because I love you, I said, and the words felt like stones in my mouth. Because I watched you rot from the inside out, and I wouldn't stand by and wait for the morgue to call. Lily needs a father who's alive. The longer you stayed out there, the less likely that became. So I go to prison because you love me. That's your logic. You were already going to prison, Thomas. I just made sure you arrived with a hand to play. The police want the names above you. Detective Singh said, if you cooperate, the Crown will deal. You could be out in 3 years instead of 10. And you thought you had the right to make that call for me. I leaned into the glass until my breath fogged it. When you turned my truck into a drug mule, you made me an accessory. You gambled with my freedom, my home, and everything your mother and I built for 40 years. You made that choice without asking me. So, I made one without asking you. I chose to protect Lily. I chose to protect myself, and I chose to save you from your own shadow. Thomas slammed the phone down. He stood there with his back to me, his shoulders heaving, until the guards led him away. The fallout was a slow-motion car crash. Vanessa filed for divorce and moved Lily to Burlington. He gave up 17 names, addresses, supply chains, the whole rotten structure. It was enough to get his sentence dropped to 8 years. Eligible for parole in 3. The day of the sentencing, he looked at me across the courtroom. I couldn't tell if it was hatred or relief in his eyes. Maybe it was both. Detective Singh met me in the hall afterward. Mr. Pettin, what you did, it saved him. The people he was running for, they don't let you retire. It was either this or a shallow grave. I see Thomas once a month now. For the first half-year, he wouldn't speak. Now he tells me about the prison library and the GED classes he's teaching. I show him photos of Lily. She's 8 now, playing piano, growing up fast. Last month, he called me on an AF day. His voice sounded lighter. Dad, understanding the why. I'm not saying I'm okay with what you did, but I understand it. My therapist says that's the first step. The knot that had been tied in my chest for 2 years finally started to loosen. "I'm going to be a better father when I get out," he whispered. "The kind Lily deserves. The kind you were to me. You were always a good kid, Thomas. You just made a bad turn, Dad. Do you think Mom would have done it if she were here?" I thought of Catherine, her quiet iron, her fierce love. Yes, she would have done exactly what I did. She'd have done anything to save you from yourself. There was a long pause. "Tell Lily I love her, and tell her Grandpa Richard is the best man in the world, and she should listen to him. I see Lily every weekend now. We bake, we do puzzles, we talk about her recitals. She asks about her dad, and I tell her the truth in a way an 8-year-old heart can handle. I tell her that her daddy hit a rough patch, and right now he's in a special place learning how to be a better man. I tell her that he loves her more than anything in this world, but sometimes, even the people we love need a kind of help that doesn't feel like help at first. Last weekend, while we were covered in flour making chocolate chip cookies, Lily looked up at me and asked, "Grandpa, my teacher says family means we take care of each other no matter what. Is that true?" I thought about Thomas in his cell. I thought about the envelope I moved and the bridge I burned. I thought about Vanessa's new life and Catherine's empty chair. "Yes, sweetheart," I said, wiping a smudge of flour off her nose. "That's exactly what it means. But sometimes taking care of someone means making a choice that makes them very angry at you, 'cause it's the only way to do what's right. Like when you make me go to bed, even when I'm not sleepy," she asked. I smiled, though my heart ached. Exactly like that. I learned the hardest lesson of my life through this fire. Love isn't a Hallmark card. It's a set of steel boundaries. Sometimes love means letting someone crash into a wall, because that wall is the only thing standing between them and a cliff. I think about that envelope every single day. People will judge me. They'll say a father should never betray his son, that I should have found a softer way. Maybe they're right, but I know this: Thomas is breathing, he's healing. He has a future where he can look his daughter in the eye again. 5 years from now, he'll walk out of those gates with a second chance. If I had done nothing, Thomas wouldn't be in prison, he'd be in a casket. The people he was running with don't have human resources departments. They have shallow graves. There's a photo on my mantle from Lily's 7th birthday, taken just before the world cracked open. Thomas is holding her on his shoulders, and they're both laughing so hard their eyes are closed. Every time I look at it, I remember that man. I hold onto the hope that he's still in there, buried under the mistakes, waiting to be found. When his parole hearing comes, I'll be the first one in the room. I'll tell them about his progress, his remorse, and the father he's fighting to become. I'll advocate for him with the same ferocity I used to stop him, because that is what family is. It isn't blind loyalty to a person's destruction. It's loving them enough to break their heart to save their soul. I still lie awake wondering if I did the right thing. I probably always will. But when Lily hugs me tight, and when Thomas calls to tell me he's finally finding his way back to the light, I think maybe I did. Maybe love isn't about keeping people happy in the moment. It's about keeping them alive long enough to find their own happiness again. That's the lesson I pray Lily carries with her. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who refuse to let you fail, even when stopping you breaks their own hearts. Here is my final piece of wisdom for you. Trust your gut. If someone you love is sliding toward the edge, don't wait for them to fall. Address it now. Set the boundary. Don't make excuses for a slow-motion suicide. Remember, consequences are temporary. Death is permanent. Choose life. Choose the hard conversation over the easy silence. Choose a love that looks like disappointment today over a regret that lasts in eternity. That's my story. I'll let God judge the rest when my time comes. For now, I'm just going to keep showing up for Lily, for Thomas, and for the legacy Catherine and I built. If this story touched your heart, or if you've ever had to make a choice that felt like a betrayal to save someone you love, you aren't alone. Hit that like button and subscribe for more grandpa stories about the hard truths of life. Leave a comment and tell me, is there such a thing as tough love, or did Richard go too far? Write amen if you believe in second chances. Until next time, God bless.